We have two scriptures this morning. The first one is Isaiah 7, 10 through 16. Again the Lord spoke to Ahaz, saying, Ask a sign of the Lord your God. Let it be deep as Sheol, or high as heaven. But Ahaz said, I will not ask, and I will not put the Lord to the test. Then Isaiah said, Hear them, O house of David. Is it too little for you to weary mortals, that you weary my God also? Therefore the Lord himself shall give you a sign. Look, the young woman is with child, and shall bear a son, and shall name him Emmanuel. He shall eat curds and honey by the time he knows how to refuse the evil and choose the good. For before the child knows how to refuse the evil and choose the good, the land before whose two kings you are in dread will be deserted. The second one is Matthew 1, 18 through 25. Now the birth of Jesus the Messiah took place in this way. When the mother Mary had been engaged to Joseph, but before they lived together, she was found to be with child from the Holy Spirit. Her husband Joseph, being a righteous man and unwilling to expose her to public disgrace, planned to dismiss her quietly. But just when he had resolved to do this, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream and said, Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid to take Mary as your wife, for the child conceived in her is from the Holy Spirit. She will bear a son, and you are to name him Jesus, for he will save his people from their sins. All this took place to fulfill what had been spoken by the Lord through the prophet. Look, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and they shall name him Emmanuel, which means God is with us. When Joseph awoke from sleep, he did as the angel of the Lord commanded him. He took her as his wife, but had no marital relations with her until she had bore him a son, and he named him Jesus. Thank you, Ken.
We're still looking at the Herdmans in the best Christmas pageant ever. Some of us shared the play the other night as a group, and Rochelle Ridgelock in the cast, and some of you have seen it at other times besides Friday night. One thing you learn in that story, and also you learn from the readings that Kay reads for us today, is that if you're part of a unit, a family unit, a community, then there are burdens that go with that, right? There's secrets and there's shame. It's just a simple fact of life that goes with every group of people who come together. Burdens, secrets, shame of one kind or another. And actually the thing I appreciate most about the Bible is its stark sense of humanity. We're given these great examples of life being nothing but absolutely messy. Joseph discovering his fiancée is pregnant, for example. And in Isaiah, the people living in exile in these really scared and uncertain times. And then, in every instance in the Bible, we see how grace intercedes through the burdens and the secrets and the shame, and somehow grace offers a way forward. The Matthew passage points to the complexity of issues surrounding Jesus' birth. Joseph is understandably shocked to find out Mary is expecting this baby when they're not yet married. This was disgraceful, and he decides to try to end things with her, but quietly. He doesn't want to cause her any more shame. But as would have been expected in that time and place, he's afraid to move forward with the marriage under those circumstances. But as I just said, grace abounds in the Bible. And the grace that surrounds this particular story is Joseph falling asleep and having an angelic dream. And in that dream, he hears a way forward. Mary's child is of the Holy Spirit. Stay with her. Be part of the miracle. The passage in Isaiah points to a child who is coming who will offer a sign. This child will be able to refuse the evil and choose the good. And as you see every year when we have this pageant, there is no greater sign than just simply looking at the child, looking into the eyes and the hearts of the little babies that are here today and have been here in past years. You see the way forward just looking at them. So they're looking for a child in this passage in Isaiah. That child will offer hope to people who have lived in this land of exile, in this time of darkness and oppression. They think if they can find this child and this sign that perhaps after all there will be a way forward. The exiles that Isaiah speaks of are offered grace in the resolve to just keep going and to keep looking for that sign that tomorrow is going to be better. So they continue to dream of Emmanuel, God with us, who will intercede on their behalf. That God with us who will allow us to choose only good and not evil. And then the best Christmas pageant ever. How about those herdmans? And the pageant, right? Well, it turns out there's some secrets and shame there too. The herdmans have this childlike innocence about the nativity story. They've never heard this story before. After church, we all filled into the back 7 pews along with 2 or 3 Sunday school teachers. The mother said, we need a Mary and a Joseph and the 3 wise men and the angel of the Lord. They aren't hard parts, but they're very important parts. So those people must absolutely come to every rehearsal. Oh, did you have a question, Imogene? Mother asked. I guess that was the only reason she could think of for Imogene to have her hand up. No, Imogene said, I want to be Mary. She looked over her shoulder, and Ralph wants to be Joseph. Yeah, Ralph said. Well, Mother said after a minute, we want to be sure everyone has a chance. Does anyone else want to volunteer? No one did. Nobody volunteered to be the wise men either, except Leroy, Claude, and Ollie Herdman. So there was my mother, stuck with a Christmas pageant full of herdmans in all the main roles. There was one herdman left over, and there was one main role left over, and you didn't have to be very smart to figure out that Gladys was going to be the angel of the Lord. Mother started to separate everyone into angels and shepherds and guests at the end, but right away she ran into trouble. Who were the shepherds? Leroy Herdman wanted to know. Where'd they come from? And what's an inn? What's an inn? It's like a motel where people go to spend the night. What happened first, Imogene hollered at my mother. Begin at the beginning. Well, that really scared me because the beginning would be the book of Genesis, where it says in the beginning. And if we were going to have to start with the book of Genesis, we'd never get through. The thing was, the Herdmans didn't know anything about the Christmas story. They knew that Christmas was Jesus' birthday, but everything else was news to them. The shepherds, the wise men, the star, the stable, the crowded inn. It was hard to believe. At least it was hard for me to believe. Alice Wendleton said she didn't have any trouble believing it. How would they find out about the Christmas story, she said. They don't even know what a Bible is. Why, just look what Gladys did to our Bible here last week. The only other way for them to hear about the Christmas story was from their parents, and I guess Mr. Herdman never got around to it before he climbed on that railroad train. And it was pretty clear Mrs. Herdman had given up trying to tell them anything. So they just didn't know. And Mother said she had better begin by reading the Christmas story from the Bible. Joseph and Mary, his espoused wife, being great with child. Pregnant, yelled Ralph Herdman. Well, that stirred things up. I don't think it's very nice to say Mary was pregnant, Alice whispered to me. But she was, I pointed out. When Mother read about there being no room at the inn, Imogene's jaw dropped and she sat up in her seat. My God, she said, not even for Jesus? Well, now, after all, Mother explained, nobody knew the baby was going to turn out to be Jesus. You said Mary knew, Ralph said. Why didn't she just tell them? I would have told them, Imogene said. Boy, would I have told them. What's the matter with Joseph that he didn't tell her pregnant and everything? She grumbled. And what was that they laid the baby in, that manger? Is that a bed? Why would they have a bed in a barn? That's just the point, Mother said. They didn't have a bed in the barn, so Mary and Joseph had to use whatever there was. What would you do if you had a new baby and you had no bed to put it in? We put Gladys in a bureau drawer. Imogene volunteered. Well, there you are, Mother said, blinking a little. You didn't have a bed for Gladys, so you had to use something else. And what does it mean, wise men? Ollie wanted to know. Were they like school teachers? Actually, they were kings. Then we came to King Herod, and the Herdmans had never heard of him either. So Mother had to explain that it was Herod who sent the wise men to find baby Jesus, and he planned to have the baby Jesus put to death. My God, Imogene said, he just got born and they're already out to kill him. They were really interested in Herod, and I figured they liked him. He was so mean he could have been their ancestor, Herod Herdman. But I was wrong. Who's going to be Herod in the play? They always said. Well, we don't have a Herod in our pageant, Mother said, and they all got mad. They wanted somebody to be Herod so they could beat up on him. When we got home, my father wanted to hear all about it. Well, Mother said, just suppose you've never heard the Christmas story and didn't know a thing about it, and then somebody told it to you, what would you think? My father looked at her for a minute or two, and then he said, well, I guess I would think it was pretty disgraceful that they couldn't find any room for a pregnant woman except in the stable. I was amazed. It didn't seem natural for my father to be on the same side as the Herdmans. But then it didn't seem natural for the Herdmans to be on the right side of the thing. It would have made much more sense for them to be on Herod's side. The Herdmans know their own shame of being poor, don't they? And having no father. And even though they act like they don't care, they most certainly do. A part of them seems so innocent about their circumstances, like admitting that they had to put Gladys in a bureau drawer. But they know what they don't have. So they connect in this really visceral way that none of these other privileged children do to this story of Mary being pregnant and being shut out of the inn with no place to go. And yet, even in the midst of knowing that visceral connection to pain and agony and shame and sadness, you can sense their excitement and their anticipation, and yes, even their joy in this story of a baby being born, the baby Jesus being born. Turns out sometimes it's more holy and more pure and honest to find that spark of joy in the chaos and uncertainty of life. Joseph, Mary, the unborn child, their ancestors living in exile, all these people seeking an answer to their questions, looking for a balm for their pain. And their answer, their balm is grace, full and overpowering grace. It is grace that guides Joseph to take Mary as his own. It's grace that guides the Israelites to seek a promise and a sign in the form of a child. It's grace that guides the Herdmans into a church that they were not welcomed in, and into a pageant that they were not wanted in. And in all of these cases, the world has changed for all of them. And then it changes for all of us. May we find that joy in this holy season. May we realize that no matter what, we too are surrounded at all times, in all places, by overwhelming grace. Amen.